and welcome back, Pokemon trainers, to the Victory Road World Championships VGC side stream. We've got a couple more feature matches in store for you. My name is Hayden McTavish, and I'm joined with Tyson Hughes, and we have fixed the stream issues, so it should be smooth sailing from here on out, knock on wood. We should be able to have a couple more matches to be able to showcase with you all, and we're really excited to be able to do that.
Yeah, and a couple more matches we'll show as we round out here our day one of the World Championships. So many great matches. I say that every time, and it feels kind of like repetitive, but it really is true. You know, Worlds is quite literally a once-in-a-year event that we get to witness, and it is truly the culmination of every single player's season. So as we, get higher and higher into these matches, the records, bigger and bigger, the quality of match only gets better. And to be able to highlight and bring that to you guys here on the side stream, as well as the main stream, the quality and quantity of games are both abundant this year. And I'm super excited to not only get to, commentate them, but get to commentate them with you, Hayden.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the saddest things each year at the World Championships is just how many brilliant games go unrecorded, unwatched. And it's really nice to be able to help with the side stream, get all of these feature matches so that everyone can see all of this culmination of talent that each of the players are bringing to the field.
Yeah, and not only talent, but the array of teams that they bring as well. We saw last time, we didn't get to feature it, but the Regieleki, small things like that really we highlighted are the things that make or break the teams and the innovation. So I'm really excited to see maybe what teams both of our trainers have brought here today.
Yeah, we have a couple of players we're really excited to be able to feature. We'll get into their teams in a little bit once we've got that graphic ready. But we're going to be featuring Alex Underhill of North American fame, 3 times regional champion, and Wei Chyr of Taiwanese fame, a multiple-time Taiwan champion, and has quite a few World's Top 64s under his belt as well.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to highlight both these players because, again, that's just the benefit of having both these players here on the side stream is that we're able to get these levels of players that we normally don't get to maybe see on the mainstream just because there might be a slightly better game, but every quality of game is going to be amazing, and we actually get to feature a new pair here that at least I haven't seen yet today, the Calyrex and the Miraidon, which is a very popular one, but one that we haven't got to commentate over today yet on the side games. And, Wei running the Calyrex Zamazenta, but again, with their own flavor of the team as well, with the Chen Pao and the Ogerpon.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see also not the Life Orb variant we've been featuring a lot on the side stream, just the Focus Sash Calyrex. So a little bit safer to be able to take a hit and still be able to get off an Astral Barrage, but a whole lot less damage that can come out on that side. One quick shout out, this is a trend that players have been picking up lately, but it's still really interesting to me every time I see it. We've got a proper Choice Scarf Miraidon over on Alex's side of the field. There's no speed control support to make that Miraidon move earlier, so it's just got a Choice Scarf to make sure that it can attack really quickly in those moments when Alex is outside of Trick Room. So it'll be interesting to see that gives it a convincing speed advantage over the Calyrex and a pretty comfortable ability to Volt Switch off of most of the other side of the field.
Yeah, and I think as well, we talk about the Scarf Miraidon there on Alex's side, but I want to highlight the Assault Vest Chen Pao here on Wei's side of the field, being a really interesting choice, not having Protect on your Chen Pao. It feels like kind of important normally on Chen Pao, having something like the Focus Sash, being able to live a big attack and fire, especially into something like the Miraidon, being able to live and fire off that big attack back seems really important, but this Chen Pao opting for Assault Vest and actually having Ruination as well as Ice Shard, so totally switching up how this Chen Pao is maybe played on a team like this, and with something like the Focus Sash Calyrex as well, not opting for the Nasty Plot, instead going for Encore, having something like the Ruination on the Chen Pao is a great way at lowering the HP values of Alex's team and getting things into range of an Astral Barrage, where maybe you otherwise wouldn't be able to without the Nasty Plot here on the Calyrex. And the benefit of running Focus Sash as well on Wei's side is that you get to run max speed Calyrex and have a speed boosting nature, where otherwise maybe you want some bulk, you're modest and things like that. But with something like the Focus Sash, you could just go max speed, max special attack, fire off as hard as you want, and with combination of Ruination, you're able to get those knockouts that you otherwise would miss.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that Focus Sash being on the Calyrex gives a ton of options, especially for handling this Trick Room pressure that Alex has. Being able to bring out the Calyrex have it take a hit, still be able to get an attack off, gives it a ton of options. And we're jumping into the game now. We're going to see that Trick Room mode with the Calyrex Ice and a Volcarona here on Alex's side of the field. And we're going to see it facing down a powerful restricted in this Zamazenta, as well as a Pokemon that is, Ogerpon Cornerstone, hiding in the corner there, able to get off a lot of damage and pressure that Follow Me.
And I think this is a great lead from both of our trainers here, both threatening good damage into both of the restricted Pokemon. That Ivy Cudgel, though, I think having a bit of the more upper hand there for Wei, being able to threaten a Ivy Cudgel into either the Volcarona or the Calyrex Ice Rider, and doing super effective damage to both. You also have the option of Terastallization, being able to go for that Terra Rock Ivy Cudgel, boosting the defense and doing more damage to whatever comes in here for Alex. But it's going to be the Miraidon there setting the Electric Drain. Not going to be too valuable here at preventing any spores or anything like that, but instead setting it ourselves up to do a lot of damage. And a Terastallization there from, I believe, the opposing side, Alex going to be the Calyrex Ice Rider into that Terra Fairy, not wanting to take super effective damage from the Ivy Cudgel.
Yeah, I think also wanting to be able to survive that body press more comfortably, not wanting to take too much damage from that. We are going to see the Ivy Cudgel go into the Miraidon slot, so good for Alex to be able to swap out that Volcarona, but the double target into that slot, that Terastallization is for naught, as Alex loses a restricted Pokemon on turn 1. We are going to get to see a Glacial Lance come out in return, though. Going to bring Ogerpon down to activating that Sturdy. Not doing too much to Zamazenta, but the important thing is Chyr has just lost one of the most important tools for weathering the storm of Trick Room. At the same time, with Alex just bringing the Volcarona back out now, it's going to be tough to find a way around this Ogerpon for this next turn. Alex really needs to get Trick Room up pretty quickly so that there's not this threat of that Ivy Cudgel coming in and taking out that Volcarona.
And notably here, we didn't really get to mention it much, but the Electric Seed on Volcarona, yes, your Miraidon is gone, but the bright side is that you get to bring it in and get that +1 to your defense thanks to the Electric Seed. So Miraidon is gone down, but Volcarona comes in and hopefully is able to eat an Ivy Cudgel with its newfound defense boost. But actually goes for Protect, not wanting to risk the critical hit that Ivy Cudgel has an increased hit rate of. The Wide Guard, though, from the Zamazenta there on Wei's side of the field, maybe blocking another Glacial Lance, and the Ivy Cudgel really not wanting to deal with this Volcarona. Wei targeting it down yet again as Alex's Calyrex goes for Trick Room, and this is a really good turn, I think, for Alex if there is a chance to swing momentum back in his favor. You're forcing the Zamazenta to go for more Wide Guards as your Ogerpon is gone down to its 30. If you really don't want to give Alex this boost with the Glacial Lance onto the Ogerpon, it's really important that you continue to go for these Wide Guards so that the Ogerpon isn't knocked out and doesn't give the Calyrex a attack boost.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of pressure forcing that Wide Guard here, but then a ton of pressure from the Volcarona still, which can take its pick of KO here with the Fiery Dance. We are going to see Zamazenta go for the Wide Guard, but Alex, if he didn't go for that Glacial Lance, is going to be able to get a nice Leech Seed off into that Zamazenta and start the slow weathering down of that Pokemon that's going to be necessary to make it through that Pokemon by the end of the game. Mostly, though, just buying time for this Volcarona to go for a Fiery Dance, finish off that Ogerpon and keep itself safe from the Rock Attack, and crucially, getting that coin flip chance of getting a special attack boost, which makes this Volcarona now at +1 special attack, +1 defense, in just phenomenal position with 3 more turns of Trick Room to go.
And I think, again, if Alex has any way back into this game after losing an important restricted like Miraidon, being able to threaten so much damage, getting in a position like this where you have the Terra Fairy on the field and a Leech Seed to boot on the Zamazenta, that means if you're Alex, you're actually in a decent spot now. Being able to gain recovery every single turn, as long as the Zamazenta stays on the field, is going to be very important. And, you know, if Alex decides to lock into another Leech Seed on the Raging Bolt, that means his Calyrex is going to get to hang on forever. Unfortunately, though, for Alex, is that with this Clear Amulet item, you won't have nearly as much as if you're triple healing off the double Leech Seed and leftovers. Instead, opting for the Clear Amulet there, just being able to mitigate against something like the Intimidate, Alex deems more important on this team. You still have to focus on the Volcarona as well, which just got a special attack boost from Fire Dance, and is going to be able to throw in a lot of damage as well into the Zamazenta, considering it hasn't Terastallized, so those Fire Dances are going to hurt.
Yeah, Volcarona's in a great position, but the challenge is this Raging Bolt putting down so much pressure as well, as it's going to go ahead and Terastallize into the Electric type, with the booster energy boost, with the electric terrain boost. This Raging Bolt is set up to do a ton of damage with Thunderbolt, and I think the onus is on Alex to guess whether that attack is going into the Volcarona, requiring it to protect itself, or if it's going to go into that other slot. We're going to see Zamazenta just stuck using that wide guard to make sure that Raging Bolt stays safe from the Glacial Lance. Leech Seed going to come out and slowly weather down that Raging Bolt. Going to give a ton of recovery on that side of the field for Alex. But this Thunderbolt is going into that Calyrex. So Calyrex will have a chance to recover a little bit from those 2 Leech Seeds, but that's a huge amount of damage into that Calyrex. This Calyrex probably can't take another one of those Thunderbolts.
Yeah, even with this double Leech Seed here, you are going to be able to heal to just about half HP there on Alex's Calyrex, but that, as you said, is not going to be able enough to eat another Thunderbolt. Unfortunately, because the Miraidon had entered the field, that electric terrain is actually boosting the damage that Wei's Raging Bolt is able to do to the Calyrex here, and you have to kind of go for what is a little bit of a telegraphed protect, right? If you want a chance to maybe even survive the extra Thunderbolts, you have to protect your Calyrex this turn, and Wei can kind of play around that. As you see Alex forfeit the special attack and defense boost, swapping into Incineroar there. Wolfie's Incineroar nonetheless. And if Wei gets his turn correct, I think that could set Alex back another turn. But the protect there does come out, again, wanting that recovery, really valuing it, and Wei is going to lock in yet again to the wide guard, not risking a Glacial Lance from coming out. And if this is a Thunderbolt into the Incineroar slot, yeah, this is going to be so much damage, even though Alex has opted for the Assaultless item.
Yeah, at the same time, it's not like Alex could have done anything other than protect with the Calyrex Ice, because the Zamazenta went for Wide Guard, and everything was already hit with Leech Seed. So it was sort of a forced, nothing turn from the Calyrex. It is unfortunate to get the Incineroar in taking some damage, but I think Alex has got to be pretty happy not to have taken a body press on the switch in. And now, there's still one more turn of Trick Room, with Electric Terrain gone, and the Incineroar has some nice fake-out pressure to block that Wide Guard. So there's a little bit of opportunity to at least pressure a little bit more Leech Seed recovery by forcing a defensive play from Chyr's side. Alex has a couple of tools to still try to position back into a good spot, but that Raging Bolt is definitely still putting down so much pressure, and it's gotten the guess right every single time on those protects, which has really set Alex back a bit in terms of the hit point total on each of his Pokemon.
And I think what Alex at least has done a really good job of this game is preserving that Volcarona's HP. We know how important it's going to be later in the game to redirect attacks and survive attacks as well. We talked about in James's match how bulky it is. Being able to redirect later, recognizing that you're already resistant to body press, so you don't really need the defense boost, forfeiting that to swap it out so that you can have it later as a redirector is going to be very, very important. And Alex firing off a Glacial Lance here, followed up from that fake out, does so much damage to both these Pokemon. And, if there's a Leech Seed, there's a way. These Pokemon are going to be whittled down bit by bit. The Thunderbolt does come out, but thanks to Leech Seed, the Calyrex is going to be able to survive, and it's going to continue to heal as both of the Pokemon on Wei's side are chipped down from the Leech Seed. And with Trick Room up as well, this Incineroar could go for an attack into the Raging Bolt to finish it off. And now Wei has a decision to make if they want to go for a Thunderclap or just another Thunderbolt and Wide Guard.
Yeah, I think the challenge is Trick Room is running out. I think if it hasn't expired this turn, then it's very close to ending very soon. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge for Alex to be able to get the speed order working out properly again, as he's hovering over trying to set up that Trick Room again. And just helpfully showed us, Trick Room is in fact gone for now. I think that there's some interesting options if the Volcarona can get in safely, because presumably it outspeeds the Raging Bolt, and maybe it gives some other options for just finishing that off. But it's definitely a bit of an awkward spot Alex has found his way into. He's gotten through most of Raging Bolt's hit points, but not all of it. And we're going to see Chyr switching out, so there's not quite so much Leech Seed recovery coming Calyrex's way now.
Yeah, and here's the problem we kind of highlighted at the beginning of the match. This Calyrex Shadow Rider with the Focus Sash nonetheless is able to just come in here. Not only are you removing healing from Alex's Calyrex now that the Leech Seed has been uprooted, the Calyrex with this Focus Sash intact is going to be able to fire off Astral Barrages, but first and foremost, the Thunderbolt on screen here able to just knock out the Calyrex. Considering Trick Room is over, that means Raging Bolt was going to be the fastest thing on the field, and Fake Out not being an option from Alex means that Calyrex is forfeit. And with both of your restricteds down, Incineroar gets to come in here and Fake Out again, but with the Ghost typing there on the Calyrex Shadow Rider, this Astral Barrage is going to be unable to be stopped there. from Wei's Calyrex. And the problem as well is even if you do lock in Fake Out, guess what? Wei's Calyrex has Encore, and you can just Encore the Incineroar next turn. And this Raging Bolt being able to survive so long with those wide guards from the Zamazenta there on Wei's side, you just had so much pressure every single turn from these Terra Electric Thunderbolts and just kind of whittled Alex's team down to where now you're in this position and where Astral Barrage just kind of cleans up the game.
So this is still going to be an interesting turn. A lot's going to ride on how much the Astral Barrage does. If Incineroar survives, then it is going to be able to Leech Seed recover off of that Raging Bolt, which is going to mean that the Raging Bolt faints. And Volcarona is setting up a Quiver Dance, so it's not going to be KO'd by the next Astral Barrage. And depending on how it and Calyrex were trained, maybe it will be faster. Probably not, but there's a chance. So we are down at least to a 2-2 situation here. With a number of boosts on the Volcarona, it's going to have a chance to get at least one attack off. I'm not sure how it's going to get through both the Zamazenta and the Calyrex, but if Alex needed anything to go right, it was definitely this turn. I imagine things are still looking pretty rough, but if he's able to critical hit a Giga Drain and recover a bunch of hit points, or finish off the Zamazenta and somehow be faster than the Calyrex, there's at least some information Alex is going to get here about how reliable a Quiver Dance win condition might be for the game.
Yeah, very notably with how that damage looked is I think the Incineroar might be able to live another Astral Barrage here, but then it's then what, right? Because you can only redirect or attack, right? So the Zamazenta can freely body press this Incineroar to finish it off. But if you redirect that, you can burn it. But this endgame is very difficult for Alex to navigate. It is still winnable as the Zamazenta there on Wayside goes for Protect. Instead, this Calyrex is going to move second because of that speed boost from the Quiver Dance. Calyrex gets brought down to a little under half, and Encore is going to be the move of choice there, encoring the Incineroar into that Fake Out that we talked about before. But Fiery Dance is going to be able to take the knockout on the Calyrex next turn, so Wei's going to have to find a way back into this game to maybe knock up this Volcarona, and if you can't do that, then this game is over.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely what Alex wanted to see here. The Volcarona being faster is a huge deal. And if the Volcarona can get the targeting right to finish off the Calyrex or finish off the Zamazenta if Alex is predicting an attack, then there's a bunch of options for it to be able to still clean up this game. That's really showcasing why people are considering Volcarona to handle this particular restricted duo. Setting up one Quiver Dance suddenly makes this Volcarona sort of on par with these two restricteds and able to go toe-to-toe. It's sitting next to an Incineroar that can only ever click Fake Out, but it might not care. It might have the tools it needs to be able to close out this game on its own.
Yeah, and I think Alex doing a really good job at being able to set up those Leech Seeds to kind of whittle down the Pokemon into that range. I think having the foresight that knowing the Fake Out in combination with the Leech Seed would be enough to bring down the Raging Bolt and kind of whittle down that threat, as well as, setting up this Volcarona, finding that perfect turn, like we said before, preserving the HP on that Volcarona so that you could find this key turn to live the attacks, set up the Quiver Dance, and win the endgame against the chip down Pokemon.
Oh, kind of entertaining here. Alex is going for Fake Out into the Volcarona because it doesn't matter too much. It's always going to fail. Nice little cheeky show off for the stream. And yeah, this Volcarona is just perfectly positioned. With the special attack boost, this isn't even a damage roll now. So we're very much seeing just an extraordinarily executed game plan from Alex this game as he closes it out convincingly and gets that win, even though things were looking tough for a while there with that Raging Bolt.
Yeah, I think that Raging Bolt was threatening so much pressure, at least it had me convinced that maybe Alex didn't have a way back. And, I wasn't sure if Volcarona was going to be able to do it. If the Leech Seed was off even by one tick, that means it got to live another turn and fire off an attack into the Volcarona with either a Thunderclap and whatnot. But because, Wei didn't switch out the Raging Bolt or the Zamazenta for so long, not only did the Calyrex get to heal off and eventually get a Glacial Lance off, it was also able to get knocked out and bring in Incineroar, which healed, was able to live the next Astral Barrage as well, and just created this spot where the Raging Bolt was dropped to the Leech Seed, and now this Volcarona is this tank that is able to Fiery Dance into everything else on the board, and you kind of lack damage on Volcarona normally, which is why you need the Quiver Dance. So getting Pokemon into this range, Alex kind of had his own ruination in a way where, Chen Pao can just click it and get things in the range for Astral Barrage, but Alex kind of did that with Leech Seed in his own way, whittling down the Pokemon, not for Calyrex this time, but for the Volcarona instead, and I thought that was a really well-executed plan from Alex there.
Yeah, I want to talk for just a brief moment about how wonderfully Alex handled the pacing of that game and utilized, dead space in turns. That first turn where he immediately switched in his restricted and lost it was actually, perfectly fine. It set up the electric terrain so that there was some ability to leverage that later. If there was an Amoonguss in the back, it gave some time to set up the Trick Room. And he was able to just sort of get into this position where the Ogerpon wasn't too threatening at first. Trick Room was up. And then also, like, being willing to just have Volcarona switch out during Trick Room was really huge. Like, Alex knew that he needed that to close out the game. And in the meantime, he was just making slow, steady progress with that Leech Seed until he finally was able to handle that really terrifying Raging Bolt and set things up for the end game with that Volcarona. I think it was just really a masterclass in a way to sort of patiently play the game and slowly whittle down your opponent's win conditions. Even though it looked like Alex was playing from behind for a lot of that game, and he was for some of it, he really knew what he needed to make happen to be able to win the game. And it was really cool to see that executed so well.
And this is exactly what we're talking about as well. Those refined game plans, being able to execute that at such a high level as well is really impressive as we get into our game 2 of Wei versus Alex. And we're going to see a switch up of leads for Alex here as the Miraidon just comes in off the rip, not wanting to lose it, as well as the Urshifu this time. Wei's also going to lead with their Ogerpon and the Kyrex instead of Zamazenta this time.
Yeah, I think the Calyrex Shadow Rider is a really good adjustment from Wei, just seeing like, oh, Ogerpon was really helpful last time, but Zamazenta on its own couldn't really get me enough momentum, so I'm going to try Calyrex instead. I can really pressure any defensive plays with Encore. You've got the Astral Barrage pressure. And I like Alex just jumping ahead and leading the Miraidon, so it doesn't get lost on the switch in here. Urshifu is a new pick, not something that Alex had last time, and I'm really curious how it's going to play out. It seems like it might have a tough time dealing with this Ogerpon here, but it does give a lot of potential damage output here for Alex's side of the field.
I think what's really interesting as well is both players recognizing the strength of each team and the restricted power that each one brings. Being able to threaten immediate knockouts with something like the Astral Barrage or Miraidon's Electro Drift. Both players bringing, Wei bringing us 30 and a Focus Sash Pokemon, and Alex leading with his Focus Sash or Shifu as well. Makes a lot of sense here, right? Wanting to live that attack, but Wei's actually going to swap out the Calyrex Shadow Rider, not wanting to take a Surging Strikes potentially, and switching in the Raging Bolt there to resist the potential Surging Strikes, but Alex going to play defensively and just protect as a Snarl comes out there from the Miraidon. Being able to get that into the Raging Bolt is super important, and then also breaking the 30 there on the Ogerpon, even if you're not doing too much damage. As the Ivy Cudgel, though, definitely does damage into Alex's Miraidon, over 50%.
Yeah, it was a nice Snarl for Alex to get out, but definitely the cost was pretty high with Wei figuring out that targeting perfectly and getting a good chunk of damage into that Miraidon. Alex hasn't been playing as the Miraidon is important to conserve in that last game either, so maybe that's something that Alex is comfortable with. Certainly, getting rid of that Raging Bolt's damage output is a really big deal because Alex needs to make sure that the Raging Bolt can't make too much use of its booster energy and electric terrain, so being able to set that up is really helpful. I am back now. Apologies. It looks like we've had some internet difficulties. Are we live now? All right. Apologies to the audience. Okay, sounds good. We're both back here. And apologies for the delay there. It looks like there was a stream issue, but we should be able to hop back in as soon as that's fixed. Go ahead, Tyson.
But that was a really interesting turn, right? Like, I mean, I guess the explosive power from that turn one and just how much damage was coming out was just really dangerous from both players. That maybe caused the connection issue. I'm not sure. Maybe a lot of Miraidon's electric train caused the short circuit there over in Anaheim. But unfortunately there, I think Alex maybe still got the better end of that trade, being able to Snarl. Even if the Calyrex Shadow Rider stays in, you get a Snarl into that, or if Raging Bolt comes in. I guess the worst case scenario is maybe if Zamazenta comes in and you're only really breaking this 30 there, but I think was overall very impactful for Alex. I think it was definitely going to be on a way for them to kind of have to navigate through the rest of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the Snarls were just really well positioned and really made sure that Raging Bolt couldn't cause the same problems that it caused in game one. It's tough to say exactly how those next few turns were going to play out, but I feel like Alex was really setting the tempo of the game there. It was costing a lot of hit points in the Miraidon, and so there's maybe something that Wei would be able to exploit there. And it looks like we're going to be able to jump in and see where we are pretty soon. As we watch this Moltres fly down as we jump into seeing the Zamazenta and the Calyrex out versus a bunch of fire types on Alex's side. It looks like a lot of switching has happened here.
Yeah, and there's the Zamazenta, exactly what we talked about before. Being able to resist against something like the Snarl is super important, but this is a totally different board position than what we saw last. And this Volcarona now is in a position where maybe it's not as free to set up that Quiver Dance. If you do, it is going to have to take an Astral Barrage and a follow-up attack from a Zamazenta, which you don't necessarily want to take. Yes, you resist it, but it still does a lot of damage. And recognizing, I think, Wei, if you recognize that how much damage the Volcarona potentially can do, you recognize that this game maybe you want to whittle it down a little sooner so that it doesn't become the menace that it was in game 1. I will say, though, that without the Leech Seed, that both these Pokemon on Wei's side are looking very healthy. We are going to see a Terastallization, though, to try to find a way back into the game, as the Shadow Rider there for Wei is going to turn it into Ghost to threaten even more damage into something like the Volcarona. And again, if this is a double up into that slot, that could be very dangerous.
We're going to see that Astral Barrage come out. Really big question how much damage this does to the Volcarona, if it can stop that Quiver Dance game plan from last time. That's going to be down to 74 hit points on the Volcarona, a good 2/3 damage. It's going to be able to get off that Quiver Dance, though, showcasing how slow that Zamazenta is on the other side. And it might even be able to take another one of those now that has that special defense boost, as Body Press goes out to finish off the Incineroar. So Volcarona is now set up to be faster than everything on the other side of the field. It's taken a little more damage than it did last time, which is significant, but crucially, with Alex being able to bring in this Scarf Miraidon, which apparently he did conserve, which is really useful, there is an opportunity now to just go for Snarls and make that Calyrex's damage irrelevant, or if you're worried about the wide guard, to just double target that Calyrex and take it out.
Yeah, and I think with the Terra Ghost, you're able to get a knockout here on the Volcarona potentially. The really important thing as well is that the Volcarona is faster, so you're actually able to get an attack. Because the Incineroar did get knocked out there for Alex, you weren't able to break the Focus Sash last turn. But with the Scarf Miraidon here and the Volcarona being +1, you outspeed both these Pokemon. And it really is going to be on Wei if they decide to protect the Calyrex or not, because that depends on how Alex plays out this turn, right? Yes, you could go for a Snarl, head a Fiery Dance, and potentially knock out this Calyrex, but if there is a Protect, then Wei could live the turn. But no Protect there from Wei, a Volt Switch there from Alex going into the Zamazenta instead, and this is going to be a swap back into the Urshifu, and if Wei just clicks Astral Barrage's turn, that could be very, very dangerous, as Fire Dance is the follow-up move there from Alex going into the Zamazenta at +1. Able to get the knockout, though. You do get one restricted, but Wei here is most likely clicking Astral Barrage, and with something like the Ogre Pawn in the back, you're able to redirect an attack next turn, and this could be very, very dangerous for Alex.
And we are going to see that KOing the Volcarona, like you mentioned. That Terastallization really putting in work for Wei, moving that 3-hit KO into a 2-hit KO, even with the Quiver Dance boost, because Alex didn't go for that Snarl. That's going to give Calyrex a Grim Neigh boost, and I think with its Focus Sash still intact, things are going to be looking pretty tough for Alex. There's an option to still Aqua Jet and target it down with the Miraidon, but there's a ton of opportunity for whatever Wei brings into the other slot to just keep accelerating that pressure, or even just having a Follow Me user next to this +1 Calyrex with a Focus Sash intact. I think is going to make things pretty tough for Alex to get back into this game, and we'll likely be seeing a third game.
Yeah, unfortunately there, Snarl not going to be doing enough, especially the fact that Calyrex has Terastallized there for Wei. Means that Snarl isn't going to be 4 times weak, or Snarl isn't going to be 4 times super effective against Wei's Calyrex. Instead, only going to be, just 2 times super effective, which isn't enough to beat down a restricted like Shadow Rider. A detect there from the Urshifu, though, recognizing that if there is a way, you need to preserve this so you can go for an Aqua Jet next turn. Alex may be hoping that you're able to live in Astral Barrage here as the Snarl fires off there, missing Calyrex, just the nail there in the coffin, unfortunately. Astral Barrage going to be definitely able to pick up the knockout there on the Miraidon, considering how low it is. This Wei's Calyrex is at +1 with the Terra Ghost, able to just finish off the Miraidon there, and I think this is going to be, as you said, game 2 for Wei.
So a really interesting game to from Wei. Obviously, we've missed a couple of turns in the middle, but it seems like there's just a lot of resources that Wei's been able to bring to bear here, making the best use possible of that Calyrex. I think the terrestrialization choice is phenomenal here. Being able to get rid of that Volcarona, I think Wei correctly adjusted to the threats that Alex had on his side of the field. And Alex, having dropped the Calyrex Ice, I think really was struggling with ways to sort of set up that Volcarona to be in good position, that it couldn't just be focused down by a Ghost Terrace Calyrex Shadow. Like, there was nothing to force a different terrestrialization. And I think that really played out in Wei's favor.
And I think what Wei did a great job of doing that game is preserving the Ogerpon and being able to redirect, recognizing that Volcarona is doing a lot of damage and that it has, a great potential once it gets the pluses to all of its to most of its stats with the Quiver Dance, but being able to redirect that with the Ogerpon, even if we didn't see in that game, just that pressure, and even later, like something like the Miraidon as well, and the Urshifu, being able to redirect that is so important, and getting that position, I think, is what allowed Wei to find their way to victory.
Yeah, absolutely. I think preserving the Ogerpon, preserving the Focus Sash and Calyrex, and preserving Terra really just made that endgame so powerful. Like, there was no way to take out the Calyrex with all of its redirection and protection from the Focus Sash, and it was still doing enough damage because of the terrestrialization. I'm curious if Astro Barrage with the Ghost Terra into another Astro Barrage on a Quiver Dance Volcarona is always a KO, or if that's a roll. It seemed like it was probably almost always going to KO, but it wasn't clear if it was a damage roll. And I think if Alex is able to even just weave in a quick Giga Drain for a little bit of recovery, that might change the trade-off of situations there. And so I think there's still tools Alex has to be able to make the most use of this Volcarona, which is his main answer to the Calyrex and Zamazenta. It's just tough to navigate them around the Ogerpon and to find enough pressure to make that happen.
I think with the Giga Drain, definitely you're able to live another one. I mean, we saw the first Astral Barrage bring Volcarona just a little bit under 50%. So with the Giga Drain, you're definitely able to get over that hump and maybe live another attack. But then the question is, what's next? Yes, you've broken this Focus Sash, but I don't think Giga Drain is that strong of a move that in combination with Fire Dance is able to get a knockout on a powerful restricted like the Calyrex. Maybe because it's Focus Sash you're able to, but it's still a restricted at the end of the day. We didn't get to see it in that game, but I already know that Snarl isn't going to be doing the most damage, even being super effective to the Calyrex there. And that's just a showcase of the power of these restricted Pokemon that we have in this format. And I think what really I'm excited to see in this game 3 is how both players adjust those redirectors and those setup Pokemon, that being the Calyrex and the Volcarona for Alex, or the Calyrex and the the Calyrex and Volcarona for Alex, and the Calyrex for Wei and something like the Ogerpon. Got mixed up in my horses there.
All good, all good. Lots of Calyrexes on the field. We're going to see one of them on Wei's side of the field. That all of the restricteds, basically, that Calyrex Shadow Rider and the Zamazenta, all setting up for maximal pressure. As we see the Ogerpon Cornerstone from Alex's side. Alex saying, hey, I saw Ogerpon Cornerstone was so useful for you. I'm going to bring my own and make sure that my Urshifu can get off a few more attacks. We'll have to see how that plays out. As you mentioned, there is that redirection option from Alex's side of the field, so it's really interesting to see him incorporating that. It does seem like it's tough to get around the amount of damage Zamazenta can do right now, though. It's really not pressured and very happy to toss out body presses. The Calyrex is under a little bit of threat, but could always switch or could always just start taking some trades and going for those Astral Barrages here.
Yeah, and what I'm really excited to see is how this Ogerpon is kind of weaved into Alex's game plan, because as you said, it's a page on a Wei's book, as the Wei decides to switch out their Calyrex instead, moving one of the restricteds off the board as the Raging Bolt comes in here, maybe not wanting to take one of the Surging Strikes as a resistant hit if possible, and is going to get that booster energy there, boosting up its special attack. The Urshifu, though, on Alex's side is going to go for Detect, not wanting to take a Body Press and preserve that Focus Sash. It's Ivy Cudgel, the move of choice there to break Wei's Focus Sash, doing 50% to that Raging Bolt, and that's sizable damage as Wei's Body Press is failed to go off into the Protect on Alex's Urshifu. And I think if you're Alex, that is a beautiful turn one. Not only have you preserved the Focus Sash on Urshifu, but you preserved the Sturdy on Ogerpon, which I think is also important here, right? Yes, we talked about the Follow Me, but the Sturdy is honestly the key reason you want to run this Cornerstone Ogerpon variant, and being able to threaten a potential knockout there in the Raging Bolt if that roll is in your favor. An Ivy Cudgel threatening into that slot, I don't think Wei has a good swap into that slot, and even if it is a Cornerstone resisting it, you're breaking the Sturdy, and this is a really good potential turn 2 for Alex if you're able to make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think getting that much damage on the Raging Bolt with a switch in, and also having the Cornerstone not be able to be finished off with a Thunderclap because it hasn't taken any damage yet, is just spectacular. Even if the Raging Bolt switches out, there's still a lot of danger there. As we're going to see Rhydon hitting the field for Alex's side of the field, gonna save that Focus Sash on the Urshifu. Thunderclap's gonna go into that, what was formerly an Urshifu water, but is now gonna be Miraidon. As we're gonna see that Ivy Cudgel going into the Miraidon. It looks like our stream may have gotten frozen again, but that's pretty clearly going to be a KO. We're going to jump back to our cameras. Oh, go ahead.
But I even think with the Ivy Cudgel going off into the Raging Bolt there, we saw that was the target for Alex there, being able to fire off into that Raging Bolt, getting that turn correctly yet again, swapping out the Urshifu. Not only you didn't do anything with it, you created an offensive pressure for Alex, and then didn't even act on it, and that kind of led Wei to play a certain way that Alex was able to capitalize on, right? Your Ogerpon didn't take any damage that turn, that first turn, because of the way you position your Pokemon and the Protect, but now you're able to switch out the Urshifu again. You recognize the pressure it exerts on the board, you swap it out into something defensive like the Miraidon, and even if it takes a body press from something like the Zamazenta, you're more than happy to take that trade because you've just gotten rid of the Raging Bolt, which was the main damage dealer in both of those games, and getting to deal with that threat and bring in something like the Calyrex, you're able to preserve the Urshifu against it, and it really is a game of preserving your Focus Sashes and preserving these Pokemon that are able to eat one hit and then do a ton of damage back, and I think that's a highlight of all 3 games so far.
Yeah, absolutely. A ton of options there. We're going to jump back into this game pretty soon, I believe, and see what's happening as this game 3 jumps in. So we saw that we were able to take, or Alex was able to take out the Raging Bolt, and now it's going to be some attacks into a protecting Calyrex Shadow as Body Press comes out. So Alex has lost a lot of his ability to take hits now. We're down to 1 hit point on the Ogerpon and down pretty low on the Miraidon, but the Calyrex has burned its Protect, so Alex has an opportunity to get a little bit of damage down now too, and maybe reposition into a more favorable state to be able to break this Calyrex's Focus Sash and threaten a KO later on.
And I think last turn worked out even better because the Body Press, instead of going into the Miraidon swap, instead went into the Ogerpon to bring it down. But Alex failing, unfortunately, to get that double protect means that the Ogerpon, if targeted down, is going to drop. The Calyrex, though, gets brought down to almost Focus Sash, as the Astral Barrage is most likely going to get a double knockout here and just go +2 special attack. The issue, though, is that Alex has Urshifu in the back to maybe go for an Aqua Jet to threaten Wei's Calyrex and finish it off. The issue, though, is Alex able to get this Volcarona, assumably in the back, bring it in and get a Quiver Dance and try to find a way back into this game?
This is one of the rare situations where allowing your opponent's Calyrex to get a board wipe is actually a good thing. Like, this is a +2 Calyrex, but it can't ever do anything now. It's going to basically have to switch out or faint because of that Aqua Jet pressure. There's no Follow Me next to it to redirect that Aqua Jet. And yeah, this is a free turn, as you mentioned, Tyson, for Volcarona to activate its Electric Seed, get a defense boost, and now it's going to be able to go for a Quiver Dance, and all it's going to have to take for its troubles is a Body Press into the Volcarona, which Wei might not even go for because it's just not going to be very much damage. So this is really well positioned if that Volcarona is able to get through that last Pokemon for Alex to be in a great spot. The challenge is, if it's that Ogerpon Cornerstone on Wei's side of the field, we're going to have to see what that Volcarona can do to be able to get through an Ogerpon. That might be a pretty challenging thing, and it might force some terrestrialization plays from Alex later on in the game.
I think so as well. I mean, Alex, as long as you get the Quiver Dance, which you're guaranteed to do, this is really your only play. Aqua Jet there, Wei recognizing that, most likely realizing that if they have Ogerpon of their own in the back, preserving that sturdy is way more important than trying to make a cheeky play with the Calyrex Shadow Rider there. Volcarona able to get off that Quiver Dance. We know Alex's game plan really revolves around that fishing and positioning the Volcarona to get in a position to get that Quiver Dance off really is what Alex strives to do. Yes, the Body Press comes out and brings Urshifu low, but Wei is able to bring in their Ogerpon with sturdy intact.
So the question now is if a +1 Fiery Dance plus an Aqua Jet would be enough to take out the Ogerpon, because then I think Alex has just won the game convincingly. I'm not sure what the calcs are, and I'm sure it depends on how the Ogerpon is trained. So if Alex isn't comfortable with that, he has to think for a fair bit about whether you maybe go for a Terrestrialization to take the Ivy Cudgel, but then be way more weak to Body Presses, or how you try to manage the damage output. Alex has a ton of damage he can do, but it's all single target at this point. You have to guess a little bit where your targeting will be most useful and try to figure out how to survive the retaliatory attacks from Wei's side of the field.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can't forget, yeah, terrestrialization here for both of our trainers still available. Alex is going to terrestrialize the Urshifu, valuing that a lot more, that stellar terrestrialization, meaning both the close combat and the surgeon strikes are going to be able to be boosted, albeit once, or this Aqua Jet in this instance, going off into the Ogre Pond there, doing a decent amount. If the Fire Dance is able to knock out, this could just be the game for Alex, and it is a critical hit to boot as well, just to secure the knockout there. Wei is down to their last Pokemon, the Zamazenta, and it's going to go for a body press there, trying to do a little bit of damage, but with the Electric Seed is going to do nothing.
Just a phenomenal terrestrialization there, using the Aqua Jet from Urshifu with just a little bit of boost from the Terra to be able to get that KO. A little bit of risk, I think, because if the Ogerpon had terrestrialized, it wouldn't have been weak to fire anymore, but that was a pretty high risk play for Wei to have gone for. And you would be weak to the Aqua Jet, so I suppose that's where Alex is sort of covering all of his bases with that. At this point, with the Volcarona and the Urshifu available against just a Zamazenta, it looks like Alex is going to have a ton of options. Zamazenta is going to go for a terrestrialization to try to survive a Fire Dance, but that Volcarona has a Giga Drain too, and so it's just going to be able to finish off this Zamazenta over the next couple of turns, I believe.
Volcarona there going for a Protect, just to allow this Urshifu to maybe fire off an attack, but also goes for a Detect. Just stalling out the game. Alex really does have this under lock, though, with Giga Drain on the Volcarona. You see if the terrestrialization from Wei comes out there. You know, maybe you're playing around a critical hit body press. That's a way that maybe Wei can make a way back into this game. The Giga Drain, though, now that it's super effective, is just going to keep healing his Volcarona basically back to full and out heal any damage that this body press could potentially do. Yes, it does fire up into the Urshifu and you get the knockout, but Wei, I don't believe, has a way to get over this Volcarona.
Yeah, I think this Volcarona, barring some extraordinary set of critical hits, is going to be able to finish things off with a couple more Giga Drains. And really showcasing Alex just masterfully using that Volcarona in this position. It just absolutely gave so many options into this Calyrex and Zamazenta, where I feel like there wouldn't have been much of an option otherwise.
Yeah, and we didn't get to feature it in James's match, but I'm happy that Volcarona finally got a showing here on stream here on our side matches here at Worlds. I'm super excited to see how that Volcarona is played and really Alex sticking to his game plan. And even if it took different avenues, right? We have the Ice Rider being able to Leech Seed maybe to then get it in range of the Volcarona. Then we have like game 3 where you have different ways like the Ogerpon and the Urshifu and positioning the Volcarona instead. And I think Alex still getting to that end game of the Volcarona was really, really impressive against what otherwise seems like a difficult matchup. I mean, that Raging Bolt did so much work in that game 1. It did work in game 2, and in game 3 it got knocked out, but I'm sure it would have done work if Wei was able to keep it around longer.
Yeah, I was really impressed by Volcarona here. I'd been hearing that it was like a clutch call for this tournament, and I hadn't believed how powerful it could be until just seeing it now. With it being able to get all of those boosts so quickly with the Electric Seed and Quiver Dance, it really did just dominate as soon as Alex was able to find a way around the Ogerpon. So it was wonderful to see. And I think also there were so many crucial decisions to make it work that Alex had clearly practiced and rehearsed to be able to sort of navigate these tough situations. Getting that like Aqua Jet plus Fiery Dance into the Ogerpon really showed that this was a well-considered choice, not just a powerful choice. And the two together gave Alex a really good showing here and is showcasing why he has such a strong record now at 6-1 going into this last round.
Absolutely, and I think you said it best, is that combination of the powerful options really created this amazing game plan that we got to witness here. And I'm super excited to get to cover more games as we wrap up our round 7 here. Alex going to be taking the win against Wei 2-1, but that's not it. We have one more round of Swiss for you guys. We're going to cut to a quick break real quick, but we'll be back soon. Go check out the main stream, but when we're back, we're going to round up the day with round 8. See you soon.